In the heart of the enchanted forest of Brocéliande, where ancient oaks touched the sky and morning mist danced between the ferns, stood a modest forge. It was the 6th century, a time when Brittany was torn apart by wars, and men desperately sought heroes to guide them. In this isolated forge, far from the tumult of the world, worked a blacksmith whose name had been lost in the meanders of time. This man was no ordinary blacksmith. His hands, calloused and marked by countless burns, possessed a skill that defied understanding. Every sword he fashioned was a work of art, every shield a masterpiece of balance and solidity. Lords from all over the region came knocking at his door, imploring his services, but the blacksmith remained selective. He only created for those whose hearts seemed righteous to him, refusing to forge weapons for tyrants and cruel men. That day, as the sun declined on the horizon and tinged the sky with purple and gold, the blacksmith was absorbed in his work. The fire of his forge roared like a living beast, casting dancing shadows on the stone walls. He had just begun a new sword, intended for a young knight who had made a good impression on him. The metal glowed red under his regular hammer blows, slowly taking the shape of an elegant and formidable blade. It was then that a cry tore through the forest's silence. A shrill, almost musical cry, but filled with palpable terror. The blacksmith raised his head, his hammer frozen in the air. Without hesitation, he put down his tool and rushed out of his forge, following the direction of the cry that still echoed among the trees. He ran through paths he knew by heart, pushing aside low branches and jumping over gnarled roots. The cry rang out again, closer this time. Finally, in a clearing bathed by the last rays of the setting sun, he discovered an extraordinary scene. A creature of supernatural beauty was imprisoned in an immense spider's web that stretched between two majestic oaks. Her translucent wings, similar to those of a dragonfly but infinitely larger, beat weakly against the silver threads that held her. Her skin shone with a soft opalescent light, and her long emerald-colored hair cascaded around her like a river of silk. She was a fairy, there was no doubt. The blacksmith had heard about the little people in his grandmother's legends, but he never would have imagined meeting one someday. Yet, faced with the obvious distress of this creature, he felt no fear, only deep compassion. He approached the web cautiously, examining how to free the fairy without injuring her or getting trapped himself. With delicate and precise gestures, the very ones he used for his most meticulous work, he began to undo the web's threads. The spider that had woven this trap had left long ago, but the threads remained tenacious and sticky. The blacksmith worked with patience, cutting each thread carefully, taking care not to touch the fairy's delicate skin. Finally, after what seemed an eternity, the last binding gave way. The fairy fell forward, and the blacksmith caught her in his sturdy arms. She was light as a feather, and a gentle warmth emanated from her, as if she carried within her the light of summer sunshine. "Thank you, noble heart," she murmured in a voice that evoked the song of streams. She straightened and looked at him with her strange eyes, a deep violet dotted with golden stars. "I am Melusine, daughter of the ancient mysteries of this forest. You saved me when you were under no obligation to do so. Few humans would have shown such kindness toward my people." The blacksmith, embarrassed by this praise, simply shrugged. "Any creature in distress deserves help, it's only fair." Melusine smiled, and that smile illuminated the clearing as if 1,000 fireflies had awakened simultaneously. "Fairness, you say, that's a rare virtue in these troubled times. For this reason, and because your kindness deserves reward, I offer you this." She extended her delicate hand, and in her palm appeared a small crystal vial filled with powder that sparkled with 1,000 colors. The vial seemed to contain fragments of rainbow, moonlight, and shooting stars. "This powder comes from the heart of the earth itself, where magic flows like underground rivers. Use it wisely, for it can only serve once. It has the power to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary, the mortal into the legendary. The blacksmith accepted the gift with reverence, feeling the warmth of the vial against his calloused palm. Before he could thank the fairy, she had already vanished into the evening air, leaving behind only a scent of wild flowers and a trail of golden light. Back at his forge, the blacksmith contemplated the vial for a long time. The sword he had begun earlier awaited him on the anvil, still warm, its shape almost complete. A powerful intuition seized him, a feeling he could not ignore. It was for this blade that fate had made him meet Melusine. He relit the fire, stoking the flames until they roared with new intensity. Then, with infinite care, he poured the magical powder into the water basin he used for quenching. Instantly, the water began to glow with a silvery light, swirling as if it were alive. The blacksmith took up his hammer again and continued to shape the blade with absolute concentration. Each blow resonated like a musical note, creating a metallic symphony that seemed to fill the entire forest. He could feel something different in the metal, a vibrant energy that pulsed with the rhythm of his blows. When the time came, he plunged the incandescent blade into the enchanted water. A deafening hiss filled the forge, and an explosion of silver steam rose to the thatched roof. When the steam dissipated, the blacksmith slowly withdrew the sword from the water. What he now held in his hands surpassed everything he had ever created. The blade shone with an inner light, as if it contained a fragment of moon. Complex patterns ran along the steel, forming symbols he did not recognize, but which seemed charged with meaning. The sword was perfectly balanced, surprisingly light despite its obvious solidity. The blacksmith completed his work in a state close to a trance, creating an ornate guard and a hilt that seemed to have been designed for hands destined for great things. When he had finished, dawn was already breaking on the horizon. He did not yet know that this sword, born of his compassion and blessed by ancient magic, was destined to become Excalibur, the legendary weapon that would one day rest in the hands of a king. A sword that would transcend centuries, a symbol of justice, courage, and nobility. A sword that would begin not in the glory of battles, but in a simple act of kindness in the heart of an enchanted forest.